The Great Hall of Station Nexus was the largest room ever built by any species in the known galaxy. It floated at the exact center of civilized space, a neutral ground where 12 different alien races came to talk and make decisions. The walls were made of living crystal that changed color with the mood of the room. Right now, they glowed a tired gray. Park Yuna sat in the small section reserved for humans. She was young, only 28 years old, and she held the lowest rank in the diplomatic team. Her job was to take notes, bring coffee, and stay quiet. She had been doing this job for 3 years. She had never spoken a single word in the Great Hall. But today, she could not stay quiet much longer. The council had been talking for 17 days. 17 days of speeches and debates and votes about how to vote and arguments about the proper way to argue. Yuna had listened to every word. She had taken notes until her hand hurt. And in all that time, nothing had been decided. Meanwhile, the enemy was coming. The Veltari were a warrior race from the outer edges of the galaxy. They did not join the council. They did not want to talk. They only wanted to conquer. Their great fleet of warships was moving toward the frontier worlds, where 3 million humans lived on 12 different colonies. Men, women, and children. Farmers and teachers and shopkeepers. Regular people who had left Earth to build new lives among the stars. The Veltari would kill them all. Yuna watched the holographic display in the center of the room. It showed a map of space with tiny lights representing ships. The blue lights were council ships, scattered and far away. The red lights were Veltari warships, moving in a tight formation like a fist about to strike. Every hour, the red lights moved a little closer to the green dots that marked human colonies. The Malorian ambassador was speaking now. The Malorians were tall creatures with long necks and glowing patches on their skin that changed color when they felt different emotions. This one's patches were a calm blue. He was not worried. He was not afraid. The Veltari were not coming for his world. "We must consider the historical context," the Malorian said in his slow, musical voice. "The Treaty of the Three Suns, signed 400 years ago, clearly states that military action requires unanimous consent. We cannot simply ignore our own laws because we are afraid." Yuna wanted to scream. 3 million people were about to die, and this creature was talking about a treaty signed before humans even knew aliens existed. The Tasari delegates spoke next. The Tasari were beings made of living crystal, beautiful, and cold. Their bodies chimed like bells when they moved. The Tasari Collective agrees. We must also consider the economic impact of military action. War is expensive. Who will pay for the ships? The fuel? The repairs? We propose a committee to study the financial implications. A committee. Yuna closed her eyes. They wanted to form a committee while families huddled in basements, listening to the news, waiting to find out if they would live or die. The human ambassador, Kim Ji-woo, sat with her hands folded in her lap. She was a small woman with gray hair and tired eyes. She had been trying for 17 days to convince the council to act. She had begged. She had presented evidence. She had showed them pictures of the colonies, of the people who lived there. Nothing had worked. Ambassador Kim caught Yuna's eye and shook her head slightly. "Stay calm," the look said. "Stay quiet. This is how things work." But Yuna could not accept that. She had read the messages coming from the frontier worlds. She knew what the people there were feeling. She had seen the letter from a little girl named Hana, who asked why no one was coming to help. She had seen the video from a farmer named Cho Min-soo, who stood in front of his house with his 2 sons and said that if no help came, they would fight with farming tools. They would die, but they would not run. These people believed someone would save them. They believed the Great Galactic Council would do what was right. They did not know that the council was still arguing about paragraph 3 of a resolution that might be voted on next week. The Krell. Delegate clicked her mandibles. The Krell were insect-like beings, covered in hard shells the color of old blood. They were ancient and patient. They measured time in centuries. The Krell suggest we wait for more information, she said. The Velthari have not yet attacked a council world. Perhaps they will stop at the border. Perhaps they will negotiate. We should not act in haste. Haste. They called 17 days of doing nothing haste. Una stood up. Her chair scraped against the floor. The sound was small, but in the quiet hall it was like a gunshot. Ambassador Kim grabbed her arm. Una, sit down, she whispered. Whatever you are thinking, stop. Una looked at her superior. She liked Ambassador Kim. The older woman had taught her everything about diplomacy. She had been kind and patient. But kindness and patience were not going to save 3 million people. I am sorry, Una said softly. I cannot watch any longer. She pulled her arm free and began walking toward the center of the room. The great hall was very large. It took her almost a full minute to reach the speaking platform. During that minute, every alien in the room turned to look at her. She saw confusion on some faces, amusement on others. The Malorians glowed with mild curiosity. The Dazari chimed with surprise that no human had ever walked to the speaking platform without permission. It simply was not done. Yun climbed the 3 steps and stood where only senior ambassadors and species leaders were allowed to stand. The holographic display floated beside her, showing those red lights still moving, always moving, toward the people she had sworn to protect. She took a deep breath. It was time to speak. The great hall became very quiet. Una could hear her own heartbeat in her ears. It was fast and loud, like a drum telling her to run away. But she did not run. She had come too far to run now. The Malorian who led the council rose from his chair. His name was Speaker Vorn, and he was very old, even by Malorian standards. The glowing patches on his skin turned an angry red. This is not acceptable, he said. His musical voice was now sharp and cold. You are not authorized to speak. You are not even a senior delegate. Remove yourself from the platform immediately. Una did not move. Her legs were shaking, but she locked her knees and stayed still. My name is Park Una, she said. Her voice was clear and steady, even though she did not feel clear or steady inside. I am a junior member of the human delegation. You are right. I am not authorized to speak on behalf of my government. Then you will leave, Speaker Vorn commanded. He waved one of his long arms, and security guards began moving toward the platform. They were Krell soldiers, their shells gleaming under the lights. 17 days, Una said quickly, before they could reach her. You have been talking for 17 days. In that time, the Velthari fleet has crossed 400,000 kilometers of space. They have destroyed 2 of our monitoring stations. They have told us exactly what they plan to do. She pulled a small data chip from her pocket. It was a simple device, no bigger than her thumbnail. Every weapon scanner in the room made loud warning sounds. The Krell guards stopped moving and pointed their weapons at her. Una held up the chip so everyone could see it. This is not a weapon. It is just a recording. I want you to hear something. Speaker Vorn's patches flickered between red and yellow. He was angry, but also curious. The Malorians were always curious, even when they should not be. You have 1 minute, he said finally. Then you will be removed and punished according to council law. Una inserted the chip into the platform's communication system. For a moment, there was only static. Then a voice filled the great hall. This is Captain Kan Do-hyun of the colony ship Horizon's Dream. The voice was calm and professional, the voice of a man who had trained for emergencies. We are civilian transport. We carry no weapons. We have 8,000 passengers, including 2,000 children. We are requesting safe passage through Valtteri space. We mean no harm. Please respond." There was a pause. Then the same voice, less calm now. "Valtteri Fleet, this is Horizon's dream. We are not military. We are families. Please, we just want to go home." Another pause. Then chaos. Yuna heard screaming. She heard the terrible sound of metal tearing apart. She heard Captain Kang shouting orders that no one could follow because the ship was dying around them. She heard a child crying for her mother. And then she heard nothing at all. Just the empty hiss of static where 8,000 lives used to be. The recording ended. Yuna looked out at the council. Some delegates looked away. Others stared at her with expressions she could not read. The Tazari's crystal bodies had stopped chiming. The Krell guards had lowered their weapons. 8,000 people, Yuna said softly. Men, women, and children. They were in the wrong place at the wrong time. They trusted that being civilian would protect them. They trusted that the Valtteri would show mercy. She paused. They trusted that someone would help them. They were wrong about everything. The Tazari delegate spoke. Its voice was like glass scraping against glass. "This is very sad. But the Horizon's dream was in open space, not under council protection. Their deaths, while tragic, do not change our legal obligations." Yuna stared at the crystal being. She had known, in her mind, that some species saw death differently. The Tazari lived for thousands of years. To them, human lives were like candle flames, brief and unimportant. But knowing this in her mind was different from hearing it spoken out loud. "Legal obligations," she repeated. "Is that what we are talking about? Laws and obligations?" She pointed at the holographic display. "Those red lights are warships. Inside those warships are soldiers who have never lost a battle. They are not coming to negotiate. They are coming to kill every man, woman, and child on 12 worlds. 3 million people, dead. And you are talking about legal obligations." Ambassador Kim had walked to the edge of the platform. Her face was pale and worried. "Yuna, please stop. You are making things worse." But Yuna shook her head. "With respect, Ambassador, things cannot get worse. We have already failed. Every hour we spend talking is an hour the Valtteri spend moving closer. Every day we debate, more people lose hope." She turned back to the council. "My grandmother was born on Earth before humans went to space. She lived through 3 wars and 2 famines. She used to tell me that evil wins when good people do nothing. She said the worst part of any disaster was not the people who caused it. It was the people who watched it happen and decided it was not their problem." Speaker Vaughn's patches had turned a thoughtful purple. "Your grandmother sounds like a wise woman. But wisdom and action are different things. We cannot simply attack the Valtteri because we are angry. We must think of the consequences." "What consequences?" Yuna asked. "The Valtteri have already declared war. They have already killed our people. They have already told us they will not stop. What consequences are you afraid of? Making them angry?" She laughed, but there was no joy in the sound. "They are already angry. That is why they are coming to kill us. Your fear of consequences is costing lives." Every single hour, the Great Hall was silent. The living crystal walls had turned a deep, confused blue. Even the walls did not know what to feel. Yuna stood alone on the platform, a young woman from a young species, facing beings who had traveled between stars when her ancestors were still living in caves. She should have been afraid of them. She should have been humble and quiet and respectful, but she was not afraid. She was angry, and she was not finished speaking. Speaker Vaughn raised his hand. The Krell guards had started moving again, their weapons ready. But the old Malorian stopped them with a gesture. "Wait," he said. His voice was tired now, like a teacher who has heard too many excuses from too many students. The young human clearly has something more to say. Perhaps we should let her finish before we throw her out. Yuna nodded. She was grateful for the chance, even if she knew it might be her last chance to speak in this hall forever. You all think humanity is weak, she said. We have only been traveling between stars for 200 years. Compared to most of you, we are babies. The Malorians have been in space for 50,000 years. The Tazari for longer than they can remember. Even the youngest species here, besides us, has been spacefaring for at least 3,000 years. She walked to the holographic display and touched a control. The image changed, showing the human section of space. It was small compared to the great empires of older species. Just a few hundred stars, clustered near Earth. When we first met other species, we were excited, Yuna continued. We thought we had found friends, teachers, people who could show us the wonders of the universe. She paused. Instead, we found bureaucracy. We found committees. We found species who looked down on us because we were new and small and sometimes loud. The Tazari delegate chimed with irritation. We welcomed humanity into the council. We gave you trade rights. We shared technology. You should be grateful, grateful. Yuna tasted the word like something bitter. Yes, you gave us trade rights. Trade rights that cost us 3 times what they cost anyone else, because we had no choice but to accept your terms. Yes, you shared technology. Technology that was already 1,000 years old. Things you considered garbage. And yes, you welcomed us into the council. Into the back row. Into the small seats. Into the place where we could watch but never really speak. She touched another control. The display changed again. Now it showed ship specifications, human ship specifications. The numbers made several delegates gasp. But we learned, Yuna said. We are very good at learning. And we are very good at something else. Something that older species seem to have forgotten. What is that? Speaker Vorn asked. His patches were glowing with surprise at the numbers on the display. Preparing for war. The words fell into the silence like stones into still water. 60 years ago, Yuna continued, human scientists first detected the Veltri expansion. We watched them conquer 3 independent species. We saw how they fought. We studied their tactics, their weapons, their weaknesses, and we began to build. She highlighted a section of the display. The Council knows about the human defense fleet. 12 carriers, 40 cruisers, 100 support ships. A small force by your standards. Barely enough to defend our own borders. She touched another control. The display expanded. New ships appeared. Many, many new ships. This is what we did not tell you. The real human defense fleet. 36 carriers. 150 cruisers. 400 support ships. All armed with weapons we designed ourselves. Weapons you have never seen. Weapons we kept secret because we knew you would demand that we destroy them. The Great Hall erupted. Delegates shouted at each other and at Yuna. The Malorians glowed angry red. The Tazari rang like alarm bells. The Krell clicked their mandibles so loud it sounded like rain on a metal roof. Yuna waited. She had expected this reaction. Humans had broken the rules. The Council limited how many warships each species could build. It was supposed to prevent war. It was supposed to keep everyone safe. But the rules only worked if everyone followed them. The Veltri had never followed any rules. And now humanity was admitting they had not followed them either. When the noise finally died down, Speaker Vorn spoke. His voice was cold. You have confessed to breaking Council law. Your species will face consequences. Maybe, Yuna agreed. But first, we can end this war. She walked to the edge of the platform, closer to the assembled delegates. Right now, 3 human carrier groups are positioned near the Veltri fleet. They have been there for 16 days, waiting for permission to act. My people did not ask for permission to build these ships because we knew you would say no. But we are asking for permission now." She pointed at the red lights on the display. "Give us authorization to fight as agents of the Council. Let us do what you are too afraid to do. Let us stop the Velthari before they reach the frontier worlds." The Malorian advisor next to Speaker Vorn leaned forward. "You expect us to trust you? After you just admitted lying to us for 60 years? "I expect you to trust math," Una replied. "Our fleet is in position. We can attack in hours. If you try to assemble a council fleet, it will take 40 days minimum. By then, everyone on the frontier worlds will be dead. So you can punish us for lying, or you can let us save 3 million lives. But you cannot do both at the same time." She stood straight and tall, meeting the eyes of every delegate who would look at her. "I am not asking you to like us. I am not asking you to trust us. I am asking you to let us fight for our own people. The only question is whether you will help us or stand in our way." The hall was quiet again. The living crystal walls flickered through a dozen colors, unable to settle on any single emotion. Una had said everything she came to say. Now it was time for the council to decide. She hoped they would decide quickly. 3 million people were running out of time. The silence lasted for a long time. Una counted the seconds in her head. 10, 20, 30. She could feel sweat running down her back, but she did not move. She did not look away from the council. Finally, Speaker Vorn spoke. "The human makes an interesting offer, but the council cannot authorize military action without a proper vote. A proper vote requires 3 days of debate, followed by a preliminary assessment, followed by Emergency Protocol 7. The words came from Una, sharp and quick. Speaker Vorn stopped talking. His patches turned a confused orange. "What did you say?" he asked. Una pulled up another display. This one showed council law, line after line of rules and procedures. Emergency Protocol 7. It was created 200 years ago after the Nexus incident, when raiders attacked this very station. The protocol allows the Council to take immediate military action when there is a clear threat to Council member worlds. It requires only a simple majority vote. No debate, no committees, no waiting. The old Malorian stared at her. "You know our law is better than most of our own delegates." I had 17 days with nothing to do but read. Una allowed herself a small smile. The frontier worlds are human colonies. Humanity is a council member. The Velthari are a clear threat. All the conditions for Emergency Protocol 7 are met. She looked around the room. "You wrote the rules. I am just asking you to follow them." There was movement in the Krell section. The old delegate with the scarred shell rose slowly to her feet. She was ancient, her body worn by centuries of life. But her voice was strong. "I am Matriarch Keth of the Krell Federation. I have been serving on this council for 300 years. In all that time, I have never seen a junior delegate speak with such fire." She paused, her mandibles clicking thoughtfully. "I have also never seen the council take so long to do so little." She turned to face the other delegates. "The young human is right. We have been hiding behind procedure while people die. That is not wisdom. That is cowardice." Her words hit the room like a slap. The Malorians glowed with shock. The Tazari rang with offense. But Matriarch Keth did not care. "I vote in favor of authorizing human military action under Emergency Protocol 7. It was the first vote. The first real step forward in 17 days. Una felt tears forming in her eyes, but she blinked them away. This was not the time for emotion. The Tazari delegate spoke next. Its crystal body had turned a dark, unhappy gray. "The Tazari Collective cannot support military action. War is bad for trade. It disrupts markets. It creates refugees who need food and shelter and medical care. These things cost money. Yuna wanted to scream at the crystal being, but she held her tongue. However, the Tazari continued, we recognize that this situation is unusual. The Tazari Collective will abstain. We do not support the action, but we will not oppose it. An abstention was not as good as a yes vote, but it was better than a no. Yuna nodded slightly. One by one, the other delegates spoke. The Malorians, after much discussion among themselves, voted in favor. They were not happy about human deception, but they were even less happy about the Velthari. The insectoid Krull followed their matriarch's lead and voted yes. Some species voted no. The Vorn hegemony, a race of tall gray beings with too many eyes, refused to support any military action. The Sisterhood of Eternal Light, whose members glowed with inner fire, abstained because their religion forbade them from choosing sides in any conflict. But when the voting was finished, the count was clear. 7 in favor, 3 abstaining. 2 opposed. Speaker Vorn's patches cycled through a rainbow of colors before settling on a tired gray. The vote has passed. Under Emergency Protocol 7, the Galactic Council authorizes the Human Coalition to conduct military operations against the Velthari Dominion. Humanity will act as our proxy. Any actions taken will be considered council actions under galactic law. He looked directly at Yuna. You have what you wanted, young human. I hope you know what you are doing. Yuna was already pulling out her communication device. Her fingers moved fast over the screen, sending a coded message across light years of space. I hope so too, she said quietly. Ambassador Kim had reached the platform now. Her face was still pale, but there was something new in her eyes. Pride, maybe. Or hope. You know what you did today. There will be consequences. You broke every rule of diplomatic behavior. You revealed classified information about our military. You challenged the authority of beings who have been making decisions since before humans existed. Yuna looked at her mentor. I know. I do not care about my career. I care about those 3 million people. The older woman nodded slowly. I know you do. That is why I am not going to stop you. On? In fact, she reached into her own pocket and pulled out another communication device. I am going to help you. She began typing her own messages. Yuna watched, confused. What are you doing? She asked. Ambassador Kim smiled. The first real smile Yuna had seen on her face in weeks. Telling our fleet commanders that the Council has finally done the right thing. And making sure the message comes from someone with actual authority. Yuna felt a wave of gratitude wash over her. She was not alone. She had never been alone. Ambassador Kim had been waiting, just like the fleet had been waiting. Waiting for someone to break the rules so they could do what needed to be done. The message was sent. Now they could only wait. Somewhere in space, human ships were receiving their orders. Somewhere in space, the real fight was about to begin. Yuna looked at the holographic display. The red lights of the Velthari fleet were still moving, still coming. But for the first time in 17 days, she felt hope. Help was finally on the way. Admiral O'Subin had been waiting for 17 days. Her flagship, the carrier Eternal Soul, floated in the shadow of a dead moon. Around her, hidden among asteroids and in the darkness between stars, 47 other human warships waited with her. They had been running silent, their engines cold, their weapons ready, waiting for orders that might never come. But now the orders had come. Admiral. O read the message twice to make sure she understood. Then she read it a third time, because she could not believe it was real. Authorization confirmed, she said aloud. Her voice was calm, like she was ordering lunch instead of starting a war. All ships, prepare for Operation Swift Dawn. The bridge of the Eternal Soul came alive with activity. Officers shouted commands. Displays flickered with targeting data. Somewhere deep in the ship, the main engines began to warm up, filling the air with a low hum that O could feel in her bones. She was 62 years old. She had joined the Navy when she was 18, back when human ships could barely travel to their own moon. Now she commanded a fleet that could destroy planets. It was strange, sometimes, to think about how far her species had come in such a short time, but there was no time for thinking now. Now was the time for action. Signal the fleet, she ordered. We go in exactly 3 minutes. Standard attack formation. I want the flagship leading the charge. Her first officer, a young man named Beak Juno, looked at her with wide eyes. Admiral, regulations say the flagship should stay in the rear, protected by regulations also say we should only have 12 carriers. O replied. Today is a day for breaking regulations. If I am asking my people to die, I should be willing to die with them. Juno nodded and sent the order. Across the darkness of space, 47 ships began to move. The Valkyrie never saw them coming. Their fleet was arranged in a conquest formation, a pattern designed to terrorize and overwhelm. It was perfect for attacking colonies that could not fight back. It was terrible for actual combat. When the human ships appeared from behind the moon, the Valkyrie commanders had exactly 4 seconds to realize something was wrong. Then the first missiles hit their shields. Admiral O watched the battle unfold on her display. Each red dot was an enemy ship. Each flash of light was a weapon being fired. It was almost beautiful in a horrible way. Focus fire on the command ship, she ordered. Ignore the escorts. Cut off the head and the body will die. The Valkyrie command ship was enormous, 3 times the size of the Eternal Soul. It bristled with weapons and armor. It had never been defeated in battle. Its captain had conquered 11 worlds and killed millions of people. He lasted 73 seconds. Human missiles were different from anything the Valkyrie had seen before. They did not just explode. They burrowed through shields like worms through soil. They found the weak points in armor and ate through metal like acid. By the time the Valkyrie captain realized he was in danger, his engines were already dead, and his weapons were already offline. O watched his ship go dark. She felt no joy. She felt no satisfaction. She only felt tired. Signal the rest of the enemy fleet, she said. Tell them their commander has surrendered. Tell them they have 30 seconds to stand down or be destroyed. The Valkyrie tried to run. Of course they tried to run. They were bullies, and bullies always ran when their victims fought back. But human ships were faster. They had been designed to be faster. 60 years of preparation had produced engines that could catch anything and weapons that could kill anything. The Valkyrie fleet, which had seemed so terrifying from far away, now looked like what it really was. A collection of old ships crewed by soldiers who had never fought anyone who could fight back. At 112 seconds, the enemy fleet stopped trying to escape. At 180 seconds, 3 minutes exactly, the Valkyrie Supreme Commander broadcast his surrender on all frequencies. The war was over, back on Station Nexus. The Council watched in stunned silence. The holographic display showed the battle in real time. Tiny lights flashing and dying and moving in patterns that no one except a human seemed to understand. When the surrender signal came, no one spoke. The living crystal walls turned pure white, the color of shock. Una stood on the speaking platform, exactly where she had stood when she began talking. Her legs ached. Her throat was dry. But she did not move. Speaker Vorn finally broke the silence. 3 minutes. Your fleet defeated the Valkyrie in 3 minutes. It was not a question, but Una answered anyway. Our ships were designed to fight them. Our tactics were designed to confuse them. Our weapons were designed to kill them. She paused. We have been preparing for this fight since before I was born. The only thing we were not prepared for was your council taking 17 days to let us save our own people. The old Malorian had no response to that. His patches cycled through colors without settling on any single one. Ambassador Kim climbed the steps to stand beside Yuna. She looked at the young woman with something that might have been sadness and might have been pride. You realize your career is over, she said quietly. Yuna nodded. I know. And you may face charges from half these species for breaking their laws. Probably. Kim studied her for a long moment. Was it worth it? Yuna looked at the holographic display. The red dots of the Velthari fleet were gone now, replaced by blue dots as human ships secured the area. And in the distance, still glowing green and alive, were the 12 colonies of the frontier worlds. 3 million people who would wake up tomorrow in homes that still stood. She thought about the little girl named Hana, who had asked why no one was coming to help. She thought about the farmer Chomin Su, who had been ready to fight with farming tools. She thought about Captain Kang Doyan, who had died asking for mercy that never came. Ask me again in 50 years, she said. But right now, yes. It was worth everything. The council meeting continued for another several hours. There were votes and resolutions and formal statements. The Velthari were condemned. Humanity was praised, criticized, and threatened all at the same time. New committees were formed to study what had happened and decide what to do next. Yuna did not stay for any of it. She walked out of the Great Hall, through the long corridors of Station Nexus, and found a small observation window where she could look at the stars. Somewhere out there, rescue ships were reaching the colonies. Families were holding each other and crying with relief. Children were being told that the monsters were not coming after all. Yuna leaned her head against the cold glass and closed her eyes. She had broken every rule. She had destroyed her career. She had made enemies of species that had been traveling between stars since before humans existed, and she had saved 3 million lives. It was, she decided, a fair trade. Behind her, she heard footsteps. Ambassador Kim appeared beside her, holding 2 cups of tea. You should rest, the older woman said, handing her a cup. Tomorrow will be very complicated. Yuna took the tea. It was warm and smelt like home. Thank you. For everything? Kim smiled and looked out at the stars. Thank me in 50 years. When we know if what we did today was really the right thing. They stood together in silence, 2 humans from a young species, watching the light of distant suns. The war was over. But Yuna knew, somehow, that the real story was just beginning. Humanity had shown the galaxy what it could do. Now they would have to live with the consequences. She took a sip of her tea and waited for the future to arrive.